Welcome to Parev TV. In this program, we present to you an interview the Armenian Radio Hour of New Jersey had with filmmaker Carla Garapedian of the Armenian Film Foundation. The interview was conducted on Sunday, November the 17th, 2 days after an informative fundraising evening in New Jersey in support of incorporating some 400 film testimonies of Armenian genocide survivors into the USC Shoah Foundation archives.
Thank you for having me on the program. It was great to be in New Jersey, and as we speak, we're working on this collection right now, readying it for this digital archive. And I think it's a new opportunity. It's a new way for us to reach a much wider audience, basically a non-Armenian audience who do not know about the Armenian genocide, by having the Armenian genocide testimonies of both survivors and witnesses, some of whom are not Armenian, missionaries, people who just happened to be in Turkey when the genocide happened. By having their testimonies available on this digital archive, which can reach people internationally, we think that we're going to be having a powerful influence on both education and the public discourse about what really happened.
Carla, what I liked in your speech or in your remarks on Friday was when you said, we know what happened, we know the history, we know. But the question is not what we know, it's what can the non-Armenian population know, and that's the crux of the matter here in this project. Tell us something about the 400 Armenian genocide testimonies. Many people have not heard of that. What can you tell us about that?
Well, all of these survivors and witnesses were filmed by the late filmmaker J. Michael Hagopian. And Michael started off in the 60s filming these various people. And interestingly, the first person was Armin Wegener, the German Red Cross officer who many of us know took photographs of the genocide. So that started off this journey that Michael took. He didn't know often what he was going to do with these interviews. Many of them appeared in his documentaries, but many of them did not. It looked for him an obligation to film these people and to one day have them available if there should be an international tribunal, or if he didn't know. He just recorded them. And now we're at the point that we're making these interviews available. So it's an interesting, I have to say, it's very interesting listening to these interviews. I can't understand a lot of them because a great number of them are in different languages. But the ones that I can understand, they tell a story, a very comprehensive story about what happened. And it fills in the gaps. It basically is the detail of the genocide. Genocide is about the murder of individuals. We think of it as this big, sort of esoteric term, but it's actually, when you think about it, it's about the murder of individuals. And we're hearing from these individuals or those affected by what happened. We're hearing about that detail. And that's what makes it so compelling.
In your remarks also, you mentioned your comments to Steven Spielberg, who is the founder of the USC Shoah Foundation, and you spoke about Turkish interference in this project. Could you tell us more about that?
Well, I would describe it as pushback, and by that I mean that when the collection was first announced in 2012, a representative from the Turkish consulate in Los Angeles went to USC, where the archive is housed, and said, "Well, we object." And the Shoah Foundation director, Stephen Smith, basically said, "Well, I'm sorry," and was very polite and said, "Go your way." And I didn't say those exact words. But basically told them, we're not going to entertain your protest. And that is a very strong position of theirs to not only by having these interviews in the digital archive, but by saying genocide. Armenian genocide. There's no backpedaling or euphemisms or anything less than saying genocide, and they say that in all of the literature about the archive, in all of the fundraising about the archive. It's there very clearly, and they will not entertain any denial. That's also something that was important to Michael Hagopian when he was making the decision about where to place. Now, this is actually a digital copy of the collection. It's not the original film. The Armenian Film Foundation will still own the original film, so we're giving them a license to use these interviews in digital form. And the thing that's new and exciting about this, it's not just about the interview. They're going to index each interview, give a keyword to every minute of testimony, so that if you're trying to learn about what happened in the Armenian genocide, you'll be able to search by the location, the villages, the names of people, relatives of people. You'll be able to search by words like, killing, a whole number of search words in the way you would do a Google search. And that way you'll be able to pull down testimonies which will take you to the minute of where your keyword search keyword is. And that makes it usable. The other thing about it is, if you want to, you can search not only within the Armenian genocide collection, you can search across genocides, meaning there are other genocides in this collection. There's the Rwandan genocide, there's the Holocaust, there will be Cambodia. So if you want to, if you're researching genocide, you'll be able to apply search words that go across the genocides, and that makes it interesting for those who are trying to understand how genocides happen.
I hate going back to the Turkish representatives, but you also mentioned that there was a Turkish officer who asked if the Turkish people could have their videos in the archives about Armenians killed.
Yes.
Tell us that again.
Well, that was in the initial protest to the Shoah Foundation, and of course, as we know, the official narrative within Turkey is to say that Armenians killed Turks and not the other way around. And so it's not surprising that an official representative would go to USC and repeat that narrative. I think that the important thing to emphasize here is that the university is very aware that that is official propaganda, that's a narrative. And instead of even entertaining it, they immediately said no. And this is not what we're about. We're not going to listen. And I think that's important, because they drew a line in the sand and said, no, you're not going to listen to this. But I think that interestingly, this archive being an archive that will be accessed through universities in the first instance, so there's a network of 50 universities around the world, so that if you want to access it, you can go to a university and get access that way. Interestingly, it will also be available in Armenia at the Armenian Genocide Museum at Tsitsanakapet, and it will also be available in the United States in Washington, D.C., through the U.S. Holocaust Museum, as well as all of these other universities all around the world. And in a way, that's the way I think to approach it. First, cautiously, that if you're really interested in learning about this, you go to a university, and the university is a gatekeeper. A smaller collection, what we call the capsule collection, will be available free to schools. So if you want to teach about the Armenian genocide and your students want to learn about it, you'll be able to access a smaller number, a subset of this collection free through the internet, the public internet.
Tell us about your impression of the New Jersey group on Friday. How did it go, and what did you think of the group?
Well, it was a pleasure to be there, and for me, as a filmmaker, I'm reminded of the fact of it sounds like a not self-congratulation, but congratulation to the Armenians. But I really feel this sincerely, that when you look at the diaspora and you see that the Turks virtually wiped us out, and yet all over the world you will see very strong, tight communities that have built themselves up from virtually nothing. And you have the schools and the churches that are still thriving, and the community organizations, and I speak about your program, you're an example of it. We're still thriving, and so I feel that there's hope there. And even though we sometimes get sort of down on ourselves for being not always united in the way that we would like, on the other hand, we feel the cause very strongly. And I was reminded of the fact that it's often the East Coast communities that feel this cause of remembering our survivors, keeping their voices alive. It's the East Coast Armenian communities that are often, if you want to use the word, the most undiluted when it comes to preserving and wanting the voices of the survivors to be heard. And that's not denigrating the West Coast Armenians. It's just the West Coast Armenians have so many different groups and so many different causes that we're often, it's very difficult to be heard. funded. So I feel a sense of renewed purpose whenever I come to the East Coast, and it makes me feel like, aha, this is a way that also that we will be able to complete our funding, because we have collected funds for this project over the last 3 years, and now we're in the finishing part of the race, if you want to call it that. And the East Coast Armenian communities have given me hope that we will be able to complete the funding.
Carla, you are very, very passionate, very eloquent. You have been referred to as a communicator, and you're doing a great job. And, Niver and Zara Belerian's contribution to this project was immense, and they really so graciously hosted the evening, and congratulations to them. I know nothing is possible without money, and I know money was mentioned on Friday. I'm happy you're not mentioning, because it's very obvious that we need the money to move forward. Any last comments before we wrap up?
Well, I would say that on the money front, that this represents a new kind of investment. We're a strong enough community now, and it's taken decades to build, but we're strong enough community diaspora to be able to invest in different kinds of things at the same time. So while we invest in Armenia, while we invest in schools and churches, all of that's very necessary. While we try to help our Syrian Armenian brothers and sisters who are in great need, at the same time we have to invest in education. And this is an educational project, and I feel very confident that this, whatever it is, 350, 370, I don't know what the total number is right now, but whatever that number is, we're going to raise the remaining balance, because it's such an important thing to honor our survivors and let their voices be heard, especially as we approach 2015.
Carla, thank you very much. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.